switching gears just a little bit again, and I think you touched on this before, but detoxing. How important is that, either, as a regular pattern for preventative measure, or as part of a treatment as well?
Yeah. Well, first of all, my mentor in environmental medicine, Dr. Walter Crinnion, pretty famous environmental medicine expert, he always says that it's not a matter of who's toxic. We all have the burden. It's a matter of what your own personal threshold is. So we all carry that around, and we often need to help take the garbage out. There are certain things that like to stick around in the fat, for instance, or in the organs or the bones. So for instance, lead loves to hang out in the bones. The benzenes and a lot of the chemicals, antibiotics and whatnot, love to hang out in the fat. These are really things that accumulate over time. So we need to help it along the way. Now, when someone is going through active chemotherapy or some type of aggressive cytotoxic therapy, even integrative or naturopathic, like let's say they're doing high dose IV vitamin C 3 times a week to do the cytotoxic pushback of their tumor, that's not a time to detoxify. The body's putting a lot of energy into tumor lysis, into breaking down the tumor, and trying to detox. It's also a very metabolically stressful process. So I always encourage people to get through their intensive cytotoxic therapies, then gently start to open up the emunctories, the organs of elimination, and support that down the road. Now you can do that gently. You can just make sure you're hydrating and maybe doing a little bit of saunas in between, and make sure you're getting a lot of fiber in your diet to make things move out of the body pretty regularly. Excuse me. But an aggressive cleanse is not appropriate while you're going through cytotoxic. But definitely once you are through that and you do a little cleanup, then maybe hitting it seasonally. And depending on somebody's SNPs, like for me, I have a lot of glutathione issues, and I have a lot of CYP1B1 and COMT. Like I have issues that my body accumulates metals and toxins and pesticides and all kinds of things like a sponge. Not like my husband, his body, it's like it hits him like a duck and washes right off his back. It's not fair, but it's what it does. And so everyone even has their own personal threshold. So I sauna every single day. Again, we all have a different threshold of where our bodies, what we can take on before the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will. So I don't want people to wait to that point. I don't want them to wait till the container is full to take out the garbage. I want them to every day be mindful of what they put in, on, and around their bodies, because boy howdy are we being exposed to it. I think 80,000 new chemicals since the 1960s, of which less than 200 have been thoroughly studied. And we have barely even touched the surface on how those interact and build up. So an IARC study, which is a huge research cancer, like a third-party cancer research international campaign, started doing some research a few years back showing that, hey, this chemical by itself is pretty benign, and this chemical is pretty benign, but you put them together. Just like they tell you when you add like bleach to ammonia, it's like bad idea, ventilate. That's like we're doing in our bodies on a pretty regular basis, and we'll likely never really know the full extent of it, but just intuitively, we're watching people sicker than ever. What is it? I think it was 1 in 1,000 would have autism 10, 15 years ago. They're expecting right now it's 1 in 50. They're expecting 1 in 8. 1 in 8. And then when I tell patients, like I'm going to express today, 1 in 2 men and 1 in 2.4 women are expected to have cancer in their lifetime in the United States. These statistics have never existed before. And there has got to be like I said, that bucket we talked about earlier of the train 10, it is just bursting, overflowing with the toxic soup that we keep filling up in there. And if you just remove one of them, yeah, you make a difference. So if people get really hyper-focused, say, on the diet, they're like, I'm gonna eat just a ketogenic diet, so I'm not getting any sugar and I'm starving the cancer, but they're not addressing their heavy metal toxicity or their horrible work environment, so the stress, they're not dealing with their sleep patterns, they're not exercising, they're not hydrating. But ketogenic, that's not gonna take you far down the road at all. Just like if they just say, I'm just gonna do chemo. Well, sadly, they're likely going to be seeing somebody like me again within a few years from that experience. Yeah.